Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, welcome to another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. This time it's Safari Guns, developed by New Deal Productions and released by Infogrames in 1989. This is a New Deal Productions production, and it was released, as you can see, on the Amiga, and I've actually stretched this to NTSC mode because this game runs in NTSC at full screen. I really do prefer the full screen illusion on this game. And yes, you can play this on a PAL machine, and yes, the PAL music does sound just a little bit slower than this ridiculously fast rendition that you can hear at the moment. But apart from that, I prefer the full screen, and New Deal Productions were based on Montreal-Savoie in Paris, or just outside of Paris, and they released a clutch of games. First of all, Fire in 1989, which is a choplifter game, Recovery, which was a shoot-em-up, and then we have a Stat, which was a graphical adventure, and finally Sophily, which was a shoot-em-up, and all of those were released in 1990. The encoder, New Deal Productions, was Domenico Manfredi on the Amiga, and he went on to create Nicky Boom, which was already seen in 1992. The graphics were mostly created by Matthew Hofseth, and he also went on to Sophily and also Wildlife, which we are going to see after this game. Let's press that mouse button, let's check this game out. In Safari Guns, we play as a photographer, and it's our job to take photographs of the wildlife all around the savannah in this case. And in between shooting those animals, we'll also have to shoot the hunters, which are hunting us and will shoot us if we get in their way. So it's a combination of a survival game and taking photographs to survive, and we will have to take photographs to earn ourselves some money. Yes, the aim of every single level is to earn enough money to get ourselves off of it, and you can see that we have a limited amount of photographs, and the photographs remaining are ticking down at the bottom of that screen. In the meantime, it's a judgment what to take a shot at, and having selected the right target, we will eventually gain a list of all of the photographs that we've managed to take at the very end of that level. The first photograph of an animal is worth 800 points, the second 400, and the third 200 points, and any photographs which are too fuzzy won't give us any amount of money whatsoever, as well as any other animal that we've taken care of more than 3 times. After that, we will get to see another breakdown of the score, and you can see that we've managed to gain some score from the shots that we've managed to take, from the poachers that we've managed to destroy, and unfortunately we shot an animal, so we lost 300 points. The art of this game is to select an animal and take 3 shots of that straight away, and then you have all of those 3 shots in the bag. then just look out for a different animal and take 3 shots of that, and basically burn through your supply of ammo. And all our cells in this case have worked out great. There are still 4 that turned out fuzzy, and yes, you can't just wave that mouse around and hope to click on an animal. Sometimes you'll have to aim straight, otherwise those are worth no points whatsoever. And so that's another breakdown of our score so far. Let's move on to the 3rd level, and it's surprising that there are quite a few levels in this game. As the levels get harder, you can see that the most appropriate thing to do in every given situation is to have that tool ready and to reach for the gun whenever necessary. There are predators which will attack, and those predators will leap into the foreground occasionally, and you have to shoot those. And other things in the background, you can see some things can be shot, but most of the things you can see have to be shot with a camera. The guy carrying something, well, that's an tusk, and I'm not sure whether you get an extra score for shooting those hunters, but I know the ones that attack us in the foreground are worth some points. At the end of all that frantic mayhem, you can see quite a lot of our shots are actually fuzzy, and so we won't get anything for those. Unfortunately, we took quite a few rhinos, and even the skin, which we took from the hunters, that is even worth some points. And so our score is really racking up now. And so let's move on to scenario number 4. It may have been easier simply to press the alternate mouse button to switch weapons, but unfortunately not. No, we have to go down and select that. I think there is no quick way of doing it, and I'm not sure there are any key presses or not. But you can see that this game has some depth and plenty of detail on offer, and the sky in this version, which I'm playing in the NTSC mode, is great. You can see that snake that we took quite a lot of shots of has appeared as money, but yet again quite a few fuzzy shots, unfortunately. So let's move on to check out the scores, and yes, if we don't score enough, then we cannot move on, and that's game over. I think the graphics are really well done in this game, and in PAL mode they don't really show these off, but in full screen NTSC in 60 frames per second, of course they do, and the scrolling is just a little bit smoother as well. You can see some colour palette changes have altered the gun on this level, but apart from that, this game plays very well. And you can see, unfortunately, the later shots were all fuzzy because I died at that point. So unfortunately, that's the end of my score, and unfortunately, yet again, some colour clash means we can't actually read it. But apart from that, that's the end of our lives, and that's game over. After that, we gain a great picture of the savannah with some nice twinkling effects of the sun, and I really do love that picture. And I even think that there is some background music in some versions of this game, but for some reason, not quite sure, there is no music on this particular one. And just like Outrun, we get to enter our name on that high score table. But that's the end of my run. You can see I've saved a number of those using this WHD load version. You can see even the animals in the background do move, and that gives us a great end feeling. And then, unfortunately, that's the end of the game. We'll have to start that all over again, but not until we've seen an advert for Fire, which was the first game created by New Deal Productions, and that is a pretty sparse game, and I wouldn't recommend you try it. The next game, and pretty much identical follow-up to the previous one, is actually Wildlife, and that was developed yet again by New Deal Productions, and you can see pretty similar names there because this was coded and created and converted by the same guys, and Ellie Daniel again with the music, Domenico Manfredi, and the ST conversion by the same guy. So this is basically the same engine with a new graphics front. So let's click that mouse button, let's check this game out. After a pretty bland title screen and some appalling music, we get to this selection screen where we can select one of the 4 scenarios present in this game from around the world. The first one we will choose is hopefully the easiest. This is the Arctic. And from here, of course, we'll have to take on helpless seals and birds and, of course, defend ourselves against polar bears who will ravage our camera. We start with the gun, but unlike the previous game, we don't actually start with a camera. To collect the camera, you'll have to click on the hand symbol and collect the bits and pieces of that as they flow along that screen, and if you don't collect those, then you won't be able to gain any money because, well, what is the point of a game when it already gives you a camera to begin with? So yes, you are not defenseless, you still have the gun, but unfortunately you can't take any shots at this stage. Unfortunately, those parts of camera are usually always guarded, and so whilst you are trying to pick those up, you'll be shot at. And if you defend yourself against the person shooting, of course you won't have any time left. So it's a choice, one or the other, and you have to be quick. And so I'm still waiting for the camera body, and I'm still waiting for a lens. There you go. And when the camera is ready, I'll be able to click on that and use that to take some photographs, much like the previous game. And you can see the graphics have had a kind of an update, although in some cases I actually prefer the previous game. So far we've managed to take 1 shot and we have 2 lives remaining, and those health packs will give us an extra life, although they are difficult to shoot. And so it's easy to burn through the film, hopefully, once we have that. And unfortunately you will not quit the level once you run out of film. No, you can simply shoot or collect more, and that means that we can carry on until we run out of lives. When 2 hunters appear, it's a no-win situation, and when the film is behind the bird, that's also a no-win. So sometimes this game doesn't play entirely fairly, and there is lots of sitting around whilst you're waiting to either die or collect extra film, or sometimes like that you can carry on collecting health and carry on ad infinitum. sampled sound effects have been used, but I'm not quite sure if the Arctic is this noisy, and with all this activity going on you would think it's Birmingham city centre. But apart from that, you can see that there is clouds in the sky, but there is no massive layers of cloud parallax, although there is one layer of parallax I can at least see in the background, or at least one, and the background is static, and you can see that there is things moving on different layers. But for my money, I don't think this is as good as the original game, not only because you can keep on looping it forever, but because in between scenes it can get pretty boring. Some of the sound effects sound like a mixture of Scooby-Doo and a playground, and maybe a cockerel crowing in the background. I'm not quite sure, but you can see quite a lot of activity going on, and this game is not dull. It's just, as I say, pretty bland when you want more of an action fest. Although I have to say, this Arctic level is the most fun in the game. It's certainly the easiest, and it's the one that I got furthest with, because the other levels in the game are fiendishly difficult. Skipping on to the end of this playthrough, I think we've seen definitely enough of this level, so here's where I get wiped out, and here's where you get to see my name on that high score table. And again, those clouds are pretty okay for its time period, 1990, and well, I think this game is pretty okay, although it isn't a patch, yet again on Safari guns. So let's take a look at a harder level. Let's check out India now. Or maybe, no, let's check out Australia, and so that we can see Ayers Rock, and hopefully a few harmless kangaroos is a little less intimidating than a few tigers. Unlike the Arctic, this level does not feed the player health every 5 seconds, and so you'll find yourself under attack, and it's not easy at the best of times, because when you're trying to go for one thing, you'll be shot at. So that's my entire try of that particular level. So let's move on to America, and let's face some buffalo, and hopefully yet again some easier targets. In America, we get a new range of wildlife, but unfortunately you can still hear the hens clucking and crowing in the background, and so we haven't moved too far away, and the occasional bear roar is very nice to hear. But 4 levels in this game crammed onto just 1 disc, or maybe even 2 discs, unfortunately it's not good enough, and these levels, even though they have beautiful graphics, suddenly aren't as good as the original game. Despite the man whistling for his dog, this is definitely a hectic level and there is more to shoot at on this level. The bears won't give us too much damage, but the hunters will because they fire guns, and everything else that you can see dotted around has to be taken a picture of, and it's great to see a Native American teepee in the background. And so this is a time travelling game, of course, with teepees and buffalo, and so let's hunt back into India in the days when that was even possible, and I think this is the most beautiful parallax level with some great things going on, but of course it's deadly. That leads me on to the scores for Safari Guns, and the lowest score came from Amiga Format, who gave it 42%, Amiga Action gave it 48%, the current Lemon score is 49%, Dato Magazine gave this 50%, Stu Amiga gave Safari Guns 61%, The Games Machine gave it 70%, Zero gave it 75%, Generation 4 gave Safari Guns 83% and a hit award, and Amiga Joker gave it the top award 86% and a Joker hit award, which gives Safari Guns an average score of 6 out of 10. Thank you for viewing this play guide and review, and I hope to see you again in another one sometime soon. Thank you.